Coming up on this week's edition of the Mindset Podcast, episode 176, we talk about the death of Lloyd Pye, China's Mars landing, the North Korea executions, Sandy Hook 1 year on, and the strange proliferation of anti-gay laws. Here's the music.
I bid you welcome.
BBC News from BBC World.
This is an NBC News special report.
This is a CBS News special report. Hello, a very good morning. You're watching BBC News with Carrie Gracie and Simon McCoy.
From ITN News at 10.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be around this wild, wacky, and sometimes disturbing world of ours. This is the Mindset Podcast. I'm Gareth Davis in Los Angeles, California, and joining me sprinkled throughout the globe, we have our usual set of panelists. First, we go 5,000 miles away to Oxfordshire in England, the one, the only, Mr. Ben Emlyn Jones. Hello, Ben.
Good morning, Gareth.
Good morning, good evening. How you doing, Ben?
I'm very well, mate. Very well indeed.
Now, you've been out and about, I hear, Ben.
Yes, I went on an expedition to the Harwell Science Laboratories to have a look around because I've heard that is rumoured to be the entrance to a deep underground military base. Now, I wanted to just see if there was any evidence of that.
You've made a film, right?
Yeah, there's a film on my YouTube channel.
Which I have not seen yet, but I will be watching this week for sure. I'm a big fan of Ben's films.
Oh, thank you. There's a few surprises. I mean, I didn't find anything concrete, but there's a few interesting things I discovered. A few surprises you might know. You'll see.
That's very good. So I hear the weather. It's getting dark very early over there in the UK. Also, Ben.
We got the most horrible weather. It's mild and it's wet. It's windy. It's more like autumn than winter. It's really boring.
Oh my gosh.
And it's the sort you go out in and you get your head mussed and you get blown around and wet. Disgraceful.
Well, we got a great show today, Ben. We got a ton of great topics to discuss, which we'll be getting into momentarily. But before we do, let me introduce the rest of today's panelists. Let me shoot straight over the Atlantic Ocean and land in hopefully sunny Florida and say hello to Joe Dunn. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Gareth. How you doing? Hey, Ben. I'm doing good. It's actually a little bit cloudy here today. Yeah. But we had a cold front come through, so might be a little bit cooler like it was for you recently.
Yeah, it's weird. All this week it's been freezing over here in LA, but today it's going to get up to 80. So it's going to be hot today.
Yeah, that's how it was earlier this week, and today I think it's going to get up to maybe 65 or 70.
Yeah, that's what that was like yesterday here.
But it's a little bit cloudy, maybe partly sunny, so hopefully the sun comes out. And
well, right now, Joe, I mean, I am still coming down from our amazing Mindset Live on Friday.
Oh, I know. It was really fun, man. It was a great show.
Oh, my gosh. What a great show. I finished editing it yesterday and putting it together and packaging up as an MP3. And it's one of the best ones we've done. I was laughing like a lunatic listening to that show. So for listeners who did not listen live on Friday night, Mindset Live episode 15 will be live. Well, not live. Will be available for download tomorrow. On Monday, so you can get your hands on that and check it out. Awesome. Now, our final panelist today, unfortunately, hang on, Trevor just joined us from out of the blue. Let me just message him real quick. That was a little bit of a shocker. I wasn't expecting Trevor. I didn't think he would come, but that's great. Just give me 1 minute here, and we'll bring Trevor in. But before we do bring in Trevor, our other panelist today is a bit of a surprise, really. I wasn't expecting this person to show up, but I am so glad and happy that they did. So without any further ado, let's shoot amazingly straight over to the not-so-sunny Spain and say hello to Venerina. Hello, Venerina.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back, Venerina.
Thank you so
Venerina's
much.
back.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
yes.
Thank you.
And of course,
okay, that's enough. Thank you.
We have to really welcome you back, Venerina, because You've been away for so long.
Welcome back.
It has been
welcome back, Venerina.
it has been quite a while, I must admit. Yeah, definitely. But I'm happy to be back.
I'll stop
Thank
the music.
you.
I'll stop
Play
the music. I'll stop the
listen.
music. But yeah, it's great to have you back. Great to have you back on the Mindset team after your prolonged vacation. And listeners might have noticed that we put out a new Journey Inward this past week, which was awesome. A lot of comments on that. People glad to see the show back on the Mindset Network. So we're hopefully going to have a lot more of those shows coming out in the not too distant future. But yeah, great to have you back on board, Verena. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now let me see if I can get Trevor on. Let's see if I can add him to our conversation, because Trevor is has just appeared. Let's see if he's got his mic all set up and everything. We're doing some live adding to the show here. Trevor.
Hello.
Trevor, welcome to the show. In progress, I should add.
Okay, I just woke up like 10 minutes ago.
Oh man!
So I had to get a cup of tea, and I had to fix my hair and put
your makeup on.
Pretty.
That's great, man. I'm glad you made it. So thank you so much for coming on board, Trevor. We've all been lamenting the weather, but I'm not even going to ask you, dude, because you're probably living in like the Arctic right now.
You know what? It's been like 6 Celsius here all week. That's like summertime for me. It's been nice, yeah. That's almost T-shirt weather.
Oh my gosh, it's T-shirt. Geez. Has the snow melted yet, or is there more on the way?
It is. It's really slushy right now. So, a little bit of a horror story. I got a new job.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that last week a little bit, and then it's about an hour drive, but it's worth it. It's more money and it's better and whatnot. So, it was so icy here on Monday, when my first day, that. This has happened to me many times before. This is pretty scary, though. I was in the middle lane on a 3-lane highway, and then I was in the left lane, but I didn't turn into it. It's just so icy. I went into the left lane.
Oh my god!
And then I went sideways back into the middle lane, and you just correct yourself. You're just kind of like, oh, okay. You're just kind of trying to turn the Jeep, and next thing you know, I'm straight again. Yeah. So Monday was nasty. It was about minus 12 Celsius, and I mean it was just, they call it black ice on the highway.
Yeah.
Right, Trevor. I mean that's the perils of civilian life, mate.
That's scary.
It's happened to me before, so I'm just like, oh, okay. I just reached over and I was eating some crackers on the way to work, and it's just it is kind of scary. So Monday was like, what scares me now is because I got the baby and I'm thinking, shit. There was I saw a white pickup truck behind me coming at me, and he starts to brake, and I thought he's gonna T-bone me, and Monday was nasty driving. We actually had a guy die on the highway.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, winter driving up here in Alberta is
that's tough. Yeah. Well, be careful, Trevor. Be careful out there, dude.
But yesterday was 6 Celsius. Oh, it was beautiful.
Nice and warm. All right, let's get some business out of the way, then we'll get into some topical news stories. We have a new subscriber to Mindset Central. This week we were joined by Daniel Allen from the UK, so I'd like to say thank you and welcome to Daniel. Check out the subscriber archives and enjoy your stay, and thank you for your support for Mindset Central. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel, and welcome aboard. All right, guys, this week there's been a lot of stuff happening in the news. Most notably for us conspiracy outside of the box thinkers was the death of Lloyd Pye. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Lloyd Pye is famous for the Star Child skull. This is a very unusual skull that was discovered in Mexico. I think in the 80s or the 90s it was discovered.
No, it was 1930 actually.
Oh, really?
It was discovered in 1930 by a teenage girl who was on holiday in the Copper Canyons area of Mexico. There's lots of abandoned ancient mines there, and she was playing around in the mines, as children shouldn't but always do, and she came across some bones which she buried under a loose mound of earth as if they'd been hastily buried, and she took them home with her and kept them as souvenirs for her whole life. And only when she was on her deathbed in 1999,
then that's when they came.
Then
into
she
the
decided
public,
to donate them to MUFON.
Well, it is.
Only then.
It's a very unusual skull. And when Lloyd Pye first came into, I guess, fell onto my radar, and he was talking about this skull, I mean, I immediately thought, well, this is the skull of some just like deformed kid or something, you know, that was unfortunately, you know, disfigured or, born disabled in some way. And he's ranting about nothing. But apparently there's been a lot of tests, genetic tests made to this skull that kind of points in other directions.
Yeah, the tests he's done DNA. Firstly, they've worked out how old it is through radiocarbon dating. That there's two skulls. There's one of a perfectly ordinary human woman, and lying next to her is this strange creature, which was described as deformed. But obviously, this woman must have known she had something strange because it was one of her friends that actually took the skeleton from her, or the skulls from her. But those people must have known it was something strange because they donated it to MUFON. Yeah. And that's when Lloyd Pye got involved. But it's been dated that these two people both died about 900 years ago. And it looks like they were deliberately buried in the mine. And because it's underground, there's been no rain leaching on the body. So there's all the DNA's there. It's in good condition. But, I mean, there's a whole list of anomalies. For instance, it's the Star Child skull. It's not real bone at all. It's a substance more like tooth enamel. There's all kinds of other anomalies, like the shape is wrong, but it's not. There's a guy called Steve Novella, which is a good name because he tells a tall story. I tell you, he's a part of the New England Skeptics Society, and he's been writing all kinds of things saying how it's just a kid with hydrocephalus. It's nothing. It's just a deformed skull.
Well, that's what I've always thought. I mean, without the whole DNA evidence and all that stuff, when you see the skull, when you see videos or pictures of Lloyd Pye holding this skull, I mean, your logical, rational mind will immediately leap to the conclusion, well, that's just a deformed child's skull that he's parading around.
If you channel your inner skeptic, then yeah. Lloyd is explained. He explains that that's not possible. When you look at it more closely, especially when you do the DNA tests, you realise that it's not.
Right. Well, let me get some other takes from everyone here. Venerina, are you familiar with Lloyd Pye and his work with the Star Child skull?
I am not very familiar with it at all. I'm afraid I know about the skull, but I'm a bit of a skeptic as well. I don't think there's any. Yeah. I don't see anything abnormal in it. I mean, I know the skull is deformed, but I don't really think that it's. I mean, I've seen claims that it's an alien. Yeah. But I don't believe that for 1 minute, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, were it not for the DNA stuff that's come out, which is as yet, as far as I'm concerned, is yet to be definitively verified. I'm with you on that. I think it's just a deformed kid or something. But when you bring in DNA evidence that Ben has brought up, that it's not made from real bone, and they're saying that the mother was definitely human, but the father probably was not, and the DNA evidence is strongly pointing to this creature being a kind of hybrid. I'm all ears. Wow. I'm all ears about that, right? I'm willing to go down that path. I mean, let me be honest. I'm more than willing to go down that path.
Well, if you consider, Gareth, was it? I think it was about a decade ago, or maybe more, when they discovered that mermaids actually exist, because they proved scientifically that when human beings learnt to walk on Earth, there was a segment of human beings that just took to the waters. Okay, so if you can consider their DNA, for example, compared to human DNA, they're still a branch of human beings, but they will be a hybrid. Who's to say? I read an article not so long ago about a woman that was, so say, kept by trolls in Norway. She managed to escape into a cave and they found her. She couldn't speak. I posted something about it on Facebook. So if we're looking at trolls as a hybrid of human beings as well, how many other branches are there out there? It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that they're aliens.
Well, they keep finding this kind of DNA. I mean, recently there was a news story where they discovered a new branch of DNA, a new form of human, which pushed back the mainstream media view of the age of the human race to 400,000 years. As far as
I saw that, yeah,
something like that, and they had what's his name, Michio Kaku on TV, yapping about it. So I mean, it's definitely interesting. For me, the jury's still out. I'm not prepared to say 100% that this is a deformed kid, but I'm also not prepared 100% to say that this is some alien hybrid from who knows where. Right? I mean, it could be either or, and I don't see any definitive proof either way.
I always wonder if we will ever know. I mean, do you think Venerina or Gareth? I mean,
I don't
know.
In
the future, maybe we'll have the technology to get more information than we do now, or
I think Joe,
go ahead,
Joe, sorry, even if we did have the technology, which I think we do, I don't think they would actually come back and tell us that, because if they brought up the fact that there is, first they'd have to admit that there is alien life form out there,
right.
which is something that would be frightening for the masses
to
know that we're not alone. Two, I think that it would throw out, I mean, I'm a believer in the fact that we do come from another planet. I don't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution. I think we are actually aliens that destroyed another planet, found somewhere else to live, and we've just gone from there. But that's my personal view. Now, can you imagine what that would do to the masses if they actually believed that?
They'd lose their minds.
But but I actually think we are in a way, Venerina. If you look at like comets and we've been for billions of years, we were bombarded by asteroids and such here. That brought the seeds of life here, many say.
Yeah, that's
another way of looking at it.
That's a very popular theory also. Let me bring Trevor in real quick to get his thoughts on Lloyd Pye.
I came across Lloyd Pye about a year ago and started studying him in depth, and the guy blew me away, and what he was talking about is something I've felt for many decades, and he is saying humans are not indigenous to Earth.
Right.
We were genetically created, and so his theories on like the origins of humanity are bang on to what I've always felt. And then when I cultivate the rational and the information that he brings forward, I go, that's exactly. It's kind of like, you go from a belief to, this is empirical fact, that this is what I deem.
Right. It's tapping into what you've concluded in your belief system. Oh, Trevor, I think we might have lost
like the hominoids on the planet and whatnot. I do have a big, I am a Bigfoot researcher, so he goes into a lot of detail about that.
Yeah.
And his star child, the skull. I started, I'm getting in depth into his skull, and what really got me was Ben already brought it up, was the skull is made of like tooth enamel, and it's like half the thickness of a human skull, yet it's 3 times as strong.
Right.
And when you compare it, it looks smaller, yet the inside of the skull is 1,500 cc, and the average human skull is about 1,400. So it actually has more brain capacity in it.
That's true. It had a bigger brain.
Which is an interesting. Yeah. And then he did a video. Someone took they actually put like skin and muscles and what it would look like if a body was connected to it. So it's really. I thought, he went and did so much work on everything he did. He didn't just kind of go, I think there's Bigfoots. No, he did research on it, and he goes, this may be an alien. No, he did so much research. And he was always on a limited budget, just like anybody in this kind of research field. You're running on vapors, and so I think that he was the kind of man who didn't just say, "Well, I think it's an alien." No, he went into research for it, and so I admire him for that. And it was a big shock to me. I knew he had cancer, but I was upset when I heard he died, because I thought this guy is. It's a shame because there's so few people that do this kind of research. So I've already said to myself, as a Bigfoot researcher, if I was to ever find a Bigfoot, there's a guy named Grover Krantz, and I would dedicate part of my work to him. But I'd also do Lloyd Pye now. I just felt like he helped me into a lot of the research areas that I've been doing, and so.
He was a great man, and he has lived to see some of his work confirmed. Because they have the the actual mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA was extracted, and it has been sequenced. And the creature did have a human mother, not the woman that was found with him, or whatever it is, but it had a human mother. But his father, his DNA pattern is like nothing ever seen on Earth before. But it's not over yet, and this is the thing that Lloyd didn't unfortunately live to see the project completed, and there's still a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
This is why the project's still ongoing. But there's other people involved, and they're going to continue it in his memory, dedicated to his memory. Hopefully, we will either have proof, we'll be able to confirm or deny positively whether we have some unknown form of life on Earth, whether it's extraterrestrial or from somewhere else, we don't know. But it's that's a good question. What's it do? Where does it come from?
Well,
What's it doing here?
I strongly believe, what you just said, Ben, as far as life from elsewhere currently being on Earth and interacting with us on a very large scale. That while there is currently no proof of that in the public domain, there is an enormous amount of evidence that something like that is in fact happening here on Earth right now. Whether or not this skull is a part of that, well, as far as I'm concerned, the jury's still out. As you say, the DNA testing is still ongoing. When it is finished and there is a conclusive independent result, then I may or may not change my opinion on this.
I mean, if it is from somewhere, if it is, if it does turn out that Lloyd is right, then the question is, where did it come from? What was it doing on Earth?
Oh yeah,
and are there any more?
Of course.
Are there any more bodies out there? Are there any alive today?
Yeah.
That's the question.
And just to add to Verina's point, they might know it's real, but people don't want this out because it would blow religion, anthropology right out of the water.
Right.
So that when Verena said that, I go, that's exactly why. They're probably sitting here going, yeah, this is an actual life form from a planet X somewhere else. But if we do this, my God, all the religions in the world, there'd be billions of people in uproar. So
let me throw this out here, okay? And Ben and I were discussing this briefly before the show, but I'd like to throw it out there to everyone on the show today and get everyone's take on this. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Lloyd Pye was 100% correct. He was on the money. This is DNA proof of some kind of extraterrestrial interaction with the human race. And he has the smoking gun. He has the DNA evidence. He has the real deal to change our worldview forever. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that that's the case. Was he taken out? Was he assassinated? Now, for most people, it's like, well, he got cancer. People get cancer all the time. People are dropping dead from cancer every 3 seconds. What's the big deal? That's just life on Earth, right? If you live long enough, you're going to get some kind of cancer. That's all there is to it, right? But we know. And this is not science fiction. This is not crazy conspiracy speculation. We know that governments of the world have the ability to infect people with highly virulent forms of terminal cancer, which will take people out and kill them very, very rapidly. And this is the perfect assassination device because you can kill somebody very quickly. And you have plausible deniability. Well, he just had cancer. It's not nothing to do with me.
Well, you can actually take on and defeat an entire nation, and no one can ever prove you did it. You never have to to declare war on them. You can just kill them. But it's true. People do sometimes just get cancer. It's a sad fact.
Of course, yeah.
Now, with Philip, if you compare what happened to Lloyd with Philip Coppens, there is reason to be suspicious in the sense that Philip Coppens came down with a very rare cancer indeed, one that normally only affects women who've already had breast cancer. And it was a very fast-acting, aggressive cancer. It killed him in a couple of months. I don't know much about Lloyd's complete medical history, but it could be simply sad fact that he.
That's true. Ben, you are absolutely correct. It could very much be just he was unfortunate enough to get cancer, and that was the end of that. And to be honest with you, that's probably the case, right? But we still have to question this. he made a video in like July or August of this year where he announced to the world, where he said earlier this week, on Wednesday, I went to the doctor and they confirmed that I have blah, 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 cancer, blah, 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 blah. And that was July or August. It's now December. He's dead, right? So as far as fast-acting, virulent forms of cancer that will take you out in a couple of months, well, then you've just basically described what he had.
Exactly. Like I remember watching that video, and he was asking for donations to help him out. And yeah, like he had a baseball-sized tumor in his stomach.
Right.
And it didn't seem like he was.
He didn't seem sick at all,
I didn't get the
right?
feeling that he was going to die this quick.
No, of course. When you see the video,
I thought they were
looked
going to remove, like a lot of doctors. They remove tumors, and
sure.
then they.
The video, he looked completely healthy. He didn't look sick at all. He was talking, rationally, coherently. He was completely healthy, and he was just letting everyone know, like, look, I just had this diagnosis, blah, blah, blah. And here we are, 3-4 months later? And he's gone. Now, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, it probably is just a purely natural, hey, he got cancer just like many, many, many other people do, and that's the end of that. But because we're involved in this area where we do tend to think outside the box and question things that most people would not, this is a legitimate question, right? Whether or not the answer is legitimate, we don't know, but the question is legitimate. What do you think, Venerina?
I think I think it's a bit quick, to be honest. I was just actually going to do a quick research here on Google to see. It seems to me because he had lymphoma, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what kind of cancer he had.
I think I read that it was lymphoma, and
okay.
If it was lymphoma, then it would take a while. I mean, I had an uncle that had stomach cancer once, and that went to the pancreas and the liver and all the rest of it. But it still took him a good 7-8 months before he passed away.
Yeah.
I just think it seems a bit quick to me for that form of cancer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it is very. I mean, he just gets the diagnosis, but then again, he might have had this for who knows how long, right? And just I've got this pain, but he just keeps blowing it off, and then finally he's like, you know what? Let me just go get this checked out, and then boom. I mean, who knows, right? And we don't know. It's all speculation. But what do you think, Joe? You have any thoughts on this?
I think it's fascinating. And I wonder, like, there has to be many more, or is this the only one?
Well,
where did it? The skull.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering. And he got when the original people that had this, where did they get it? Like, how has it been held on for so long? If it's 900 years old, they say, right?
Right. Well, it's been in the mine for 900 years.
So it's been in there
as far as we know. As far as we know, it's been in the mine for 900 years. Yeah.
It's just amazing to me, and I wonder if there's got to be more remains than this.
If this is what Lloyd Pye claimed it to be, then yeah, there has to be more of these creatures remains throughout the world, and in fact, many more of these creatures walking around someplace and getting on with business, right?
Which
can
leads
I throw
me to
something
believe.
else out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just something that intuitively came to me, okay? Not something that I'm really rationally thinking about, but just something that came through my mind. What if it was a man-made product? What if it was something not like cloning, but something similar? What if it was an experiment?
Yeah.
Now, if he'd ever got to the bottom of that would blow open, conspiracy theories that have been going on for centuries now.
Yeah.
About cloning and secret studies, if you like, in secret locations. So yeah, if I don't know, it just opens a whole new can of worms, doesn't it? Really,
it really does.
Possible, yeah.
I want to say too. You're talking about Venerina, like they were doing that back then, the testing and the cloning.
Yeah, well,
genetic
we know that
manipulation.
We know
because
that
they're doing it. They're doing it now. They're doing all these tests now. They're trying to create new cells, new DNA. They're trying to make. They're trying to speed up evolution, basically.
Well, if you think about it, we can actually print organs now with 3D printers, with stem cell research. Cloning has been going on at least, for the last 3-4 decades that we know of. Who says it hasn't been going on for longer?
Well, I mean,
who says that
what we're talking about is the modern. You're talking about the modern age of cloning, right? I mean, there's many schools of thought that mankind is an ancient race, and there's been many high technological civilizations on this planet. So as far as cloning and making chimeras and things of that nature, that might have been going on for thousands of years. You know, technology, our knowledge of technology might ebb and flow, right? We're getting we're getting back into it now, whereas before we kind of forgot about it.
Well, there are theories of Atlantis.
Okay, hang on. Let's go one at a time. Let's go. Ben, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the timing, the dating of this star child puts it several centuries before the conquest, Christopher Columbus and the conquest. Now, if you study the history of the conquistadors, it's obvious that it was an attempt to seize the information of the native civilizations of the Americas and then destroy them.
Right.
After they'd secreted this information. So, I mean, but alternative researchers have come across some amazing records which show that it's quite possible that these people had a far higher level of technology than history gives them credit.
Sure. Go ahead, Ben Rena. You were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that there is speculation about the continent of Atlantis, the original people of Atlantis. They were people that had a different formation of skull. They had scales on the skin, whereas we have smooth skin. They were, their heads were deformed. So what if if it wasn't just a myth, and what if this race of people really did exist, and what if they managed to survive somewhere?
Yeah. Who knows?
I have a point to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
About DNA, and we have this DNA in us, I believe, and I've been doing a lot of reading about this recently, actually, that they're trying to wake up that DNA in us. They're trying to find out what our past DNA could have had in it.
Yeah.
And possibly and in the future they would enhance us that way. We'd get back those old characteristics. Maybe Venerina's onto something there. Maybe it's not a different race. Maybe it was us.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Joe, sorry to add to that point that Joe's talking about DNA. I don't know if you guys saw it, but 2 days ago, a new piece of research was actually published saying that we have DNA within DNA. So they're now finding out that our DNA is not actually the code, our proper code. The proper code is within the DNA itself.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right. Well, unfortunately, Lloyd Pye is no longer with us, but his legacy and his work will live on, and we'll see where it finally goes. Hopefully, there will be some definitive results from the research on the skull, and we'll definitively know one way or the other if this is something very, very strange or not. All right. Let's move on here. Something else happened this week, which I guess kind of ties in with the whole star people deal, very loosely, I should add, but still, it has to do with space. It's China. China landed a probe on Mars this week.
Really?
At the moon?
Did I say Mars? Did I say Mars?
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Cool.
No, not Mars. The moon. I'm sorry. I do apologize. They landed a probe on the moon. Now, this is, most people, this is yawn-inducing, right? I mean, there's been probes circling and landing on the moon for decades, but China has done it. They've landed this probe on the moon, and I'm a little staggered by this, and I want to get everyone's take on this because for me this is very weird. Not the fact that they landed something on the moon. That's not weird at all. What's weird is that the moon is our closest heavenly body, right? You see it every night when you look up into the sky. There it is, hanging there, the moon. It's right there. It's not that far. You can point telescopes from the Earth to the moon and get amazing high-resolution photographs of the moon. They send this craft to the moon, and I want everyone to remember this. This is 2013, 21st century, high-def world. Everywhere you look is high definition, 1080p screens, 4K screens. Cameras have 20-something megapixels, extreme high resolution, and they are taking pictures on the moon and sending them back to Earth. And these pictures look like they were taken in 1963. And I'm wondering why. Because it makes no sense to me. You would think they would be sending back super crisp, high resolution, awesome pictures of the moon. But they're not. They're sending back garbage. Just, some guy taking a picture with a cell phone from 1998. I mean, the picture looks like shit. What is up with this? Why? It makes zero sense to me. What is everyone's thoughts? Let's start with Ben. What do you think, Ben?
Well, I mean, I think I mentioned this before several times, and we were talking off air about this too. I'm very much doubtful about the veracity of the 1969 Apollo landings and that period when the Apollo mission supposedly sent some men to the moon. It's a big subject, but basically there's a lot of reason to think that no one was actually sent to the moon, and that all the evidence was faked. The pictures were done in a studio, the things like that.
Okay.
And so if that's the case, maybe we should be a little bit doubtful about other claims that are made by various organizations, national sovereign states or corporations, that they have achieved some kind of feat in space. So, I mean, this could be something like that. I mean, I think it's too soon to say because they only landed the thing yesterday. It's called Jade Rabbit, which is a wonderful name.
Jade Rabbit, yeah.
And it looks rather like the various things they've had on Mars, which they have a little rover that with wheels that can move around independently and send back everything. So it's too soon to say, but I mean, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this, and hopefully in a few days we'll have some more information for you. But you're right, the pictures don't seem to be good enough quality, and indeed
it doesn't make
the
any
Apollo
sense
mission TV quality wasn't good enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the Apollo stuff. I mean, it was 1968, 69 when they landed?
69 when the first Apollo 11 landed, yeah.
So I get it. The live transmissions from Apollo to old analog television sets back in the late 60s, it's understandable why the imagery wouldn't be that great. Now, that's not to say that they didn't take, spools and spools of high-resolution film on the moon, because they did. They had very, very sensitive, high-resolution film cameras used on the moon, which took incredible images, which we've never seen, by the way. And all of the Apollo astronauts confirmed that they did take this footage.
Well, the thing about it is, though, Gareth, the actual TV pictures from Apollo 11 were not the media. The pictures that was broadcast to the media were filmed from a camera,
right?
Which was actually trained on a TV screen. The actual feed from the video, there was a videotape feed coming from
There was
NASA.
There's people.
And do you know what, Gareth?
Yeah.
They've lost the original video.
Well, that's not entirely.
They've lost it.
That's not entirely true, man. Let me try and. You're absolutely right in what you're saying. Is that the people that were in the command control room at NASA, watching, they had these huge screens, these big monitors in the control room where they were watching live images of the one small step and all this that were being live streamed down into the control room, and the news crews were then pointing their news cameras at these images on the screen and filming that, which was then being beamed back into everyone's home all over the planet. And the people that worked in mission control, some of them have come forward and saying, yeah, I was always surprised by that. When I was there looking at the screen, the quality was awesome. But then later on, when I saw clips of it on the news, it looked like shit. Why is that? Why didn't they broadcast the good quality? And you're also right, Ben, that the spools and spools of hundreds and hundreds of feet or hours of high-resolution footage that was taken on the moon vanished. And it was gone for the best part of 30-odd years. Until they were this is the weird part. They were discovered in an unused room in a laundrette, right? A
laundrette?
In Australia.
They've discovered them in a lawn. Was that at the Parkes Observatory? That's really weird. Because some of the footage came through the Parkes Observatory.
And even though they discovered all this footage and they shipped it all back to NASA and blah, 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 we still haven't seen it.
Well, that is weird because, I mean, I'm sure many people who are into space would love to see the original footage. Top quality, not the...
Yeah, this is not some grainy... This is like super crisp, clean images. Now this was from my perspective, I think that this footage was never lost, right? They've always had it, but they've said it was lost. And what was discovered in that back room in Australia was a copy. Right? The original stuff, you're not going to lose that. I mean, come on.
It seems weird that they would lose something like that.
It's
get
impossible.
lost.
There's no way. But I just find it very suspicious, this Mars-China lander in 2013 landing on the moon, and the moon's not that far away, for God's sake. It's not like they're traveling to the other side of the solar system or something. It's basically just like walking across the street, for God's sake. And they're sending back these grainy piece of garbage images? What is up with that? It makes no sense.
If you go on space.com, you can see the images right there, and they look like something from 1970.
Right.
That's what I don't understand either. And why are people asking these questions?
I don't understand.
We can zoom down and get it close in on someone's license plate.
Damn it! I mean,
from a satellite on Earth, but yet we can't get these close-up images on Moon or Mars.
I can walk outside with my cell phone and take pictures better than that. I mean,
that's true. They're very bad. They're very poor pictures.
If they're like, well, we can't afford the camera, I'm like, for God's sake, someone send an iPhone up there to take pictures then or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, someone send a cell phone up
pictures.
There.
Why send anything to the moon at all? It's not worth even going if you can't get proper data back.
Of course, it's unbelievable.
Why can they get a universe billions of light years away? Spectacular imagery of that for us to see. But
exactly,
something so close we can't see this.
Look at that.
I know, and Mars. I mean, Mars is 100 times further than the moon away, but the pictures coming back from Mars are much better than the ones coming back from the moon right now.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Let's see, Venerina, what are your thoughts on this thing?
I think it's a fake. I think it's all a distraction tactic, but that's just me.
Elaborate. Tell me more.
Well, last month, China was chasing US and Japan fighter jets in the East China Sea because of some islands or something. There was some kind of dispute. I can't remember the whole story. Just before the launch of the Sosei mission to the moon, the Chinese also destroyed immense areas in the autonomous region of Tibet, which is what the world is up in arms about. And so I think it's all a distraction ploy. And also, I think there's something going on between China, Russia, India at the moment, and I think it's a distraction from that, but that's something we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Yep, we're going to get there.
And also the images, like you said, Gareth, the images that we saw aren't very clear, but the ones that are clear look like they're doctored in Photoshop.
Well,
the colours are not real.
That's absolutely correct. Even with all of the publicly released Mars photographs, Ben mentioned that the images that come from Mars are a lot higher quality than we're getting from the moon, and that's true. But all of the images that are released from Mars are heavily doctored and messed, and they fool with the color. They change the color of the soil, the color of the sky. They airbrush out any anomalous images or things that might make people think, "Ooh, what's that?" They constantly do that.
Well, if you think about it, the last time we had a mission to the moon, it was used as a distraction, wasn't it, from the wars going on? But it was also something to give morale and high spirits to the people. What if China's using the same ploy, the same tactics, the same public relations personnel, to market China, to put it out there in a different light? I mean, why now? Why the moon? Why now? Yeah. I think this is more to the question. Why is China doing this now? Why didn't it do it 20 years ago? It had the possibilities. Right. It's got the capabilities. It's had the money. It has the money. So why now? Why now?
Go ahead, Joe. You're going to say something?
I agree with Venerina because it's the same thing we saw, I think, North Korea try to do. Didn't they try to send something up recently? And of course it failed, but all these countries are trying to do these things to give their their citizens' morale, make them feel good about their country, just like what we did here in America. And I also think that it's also because they want a part of the resources.
Yeah.
They want to get up there too. There is a space race going on, believe it or not.
Yeah, the image quality just does not make sense to me. Trevor, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. The image quality is I'm like, come on, like you're saying, I can take awesome pictures with my Samsung Galaxy S3, but yet these guys can't do it. Are you kidding me? With today's technology, China they're not just a rinky-dink country. They should have been able to get up there and get just the most beautiful pictures ever.
God damn.
Like you say, in today's technology, going to the moon, goodness me, it's not that. I'm not a rocket scientist or anything, but I'm assuming that, to send a rocket up to the moon is not that difficult. So,
just send a cell phone up there, take some pictures.
As well, too, is this China's 1969 or whenever they went to the moon in the States? Was it 69 or?
Yeah.
The United States was heavily against Russia, and this is like a space race, and it's a race for everything. So, are we back in some kind of race for superiority around the world?
I think so.
I don't think so. I disagree completely.
I do. I agree.
Why do you agree, Joe? Please explain.
Because think about it, on Earth, we're trying to exploit our resources now.
Right.
There are so many more resources in space, and whatever country gets out there and gets a hold of these has the control. They have the power. So there is this race going on. That's my opinion about it.
Okay.
And I think that's why they're going to the moon and Mars, and they're trying to get asteroids. They're trying to mine them, and they want those resources. I'm not saying this is the reason China's going, but
what are you going to say, Ben? Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was listening to a guy on the radio the other day. He was talking about sovereignty in space, and was talking about how different countries should be allowed to claim, because at the moment there's all the countries of the world, everyone who's ever launched a rocket, at least, has signed a treaty saying they're not going to lay claim, no possessions. You can't build an empire in space yet. This guy's saying no, you should be allowed to possess certain asteroids if they have minerals that are useful.
Well, that's the only way that public technology is going to ignite a real space race, is if there is if there's a way to make lots of money, then people are going to be all over it.
There's water, the water alone on the asteroids and things like that.
Now,
it's resourceful. It's
interesting that they're coming out and mentioning that they are going to be trying to harvest an asteroid and bring it in, and I'm not buying this, dude. I'm not buying it. Not because it's a crazy idea or anything, but I'm not buying it because public technology to do that is so clunky and primitive and backward that while it might be possible, it would be an absolute nightmare to achieve. Right?
Now, Gareth, who's saying they want to bring an asteroid? That's China?
No. I think the U.S. The U.S.
It was a man called. I'll just find his name.
Now, I think this has something to do because people who listen to the show will know that I'm a big fan of the Breakaway Civilization and the secret space program and all that stuff, and I think something like that is going on. I think that the technology that we see in the public arena is minimum decades behind what's state of the art. And if that is the case, and obviously I have no proof. I might be 100% wrong on this, but from the evidence I've seen, from the people I've seen talking about this, something is definitely happening.
Well, the thing is, if they're going to go out and get asteroids, they're going to have to do it with technology that's publicly available. Otherwise, you'd have a little bit of a credibility problem. People would say, "Well, how did you get hold of this?"
Well, that very well might be the case, though. It might be the way to kind of slowly bring, because sooner or later this is going to have to come out sooner or later. Don't you think?
Well, do you think they're hiding something too?
Of course, yeah.
I don't. I think I've spoken about this before, but I don't think that they can ever declassify this kind of technology without basically jeopardizing it. Talking as an advocate for the New World Order, the people behind the New World Order, this is one secret that's too big to ever reveal.
Well, it's baby steps, right? A little trickle at a time, a little bit here, a little bit there. Obviously, they cannot come out out of the blue and say, hey, guess what? It's got to be very slowly and meticulously and micromanaged to get it out there over time.
I don't think this could be. You can't do that with this particular kind of subject, though, Gareth. It's rather like you can't sort of have a little bit at a time when it comes to something as revolutionary as this. I mean,
you can talk about it, but to do it, you have to go all in.
Yeah, it's not just the implications of exactly people, because the moment it's like a domino. Once the first domino's gone, they're all going to go. I mean, once you reveal one little bit, everyone's going to say, well, what about the rest? What else is you hiding? It's just, it ties in with ET disclosure and things like that.
I wouldn't be shocked if we've already brought.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, I was going to say I wouldn't be shocked if they're already harvesting asteroids and whatnot. The technology that's like Star Trek almost.
Well, you might not be, but most people would be.
Oh, I know.
It's not just the implications of actually having this technology publicly available. It's the implications of having to, because they would have to admit they kept the secret for, well, at least a century now. Because we're not just talking about anything extraterrestrial. We're going back to the time of Nikola Tesla and inventors like that. Yeah. They're going to have to say that basically, I mean, everyone who's listening who knows about this, if it happened, would be thinking back through history and thinking to themselves how differently the history of the last 100 and something years would be if this had been frankly and openly acknowledged at the time. And that means that the people who kept the secret effectively almost destroyed the earth and let 2 billion people die.
Yeah.
It's all been, all the environmental destruction, all the poverty, all these wars for oil, it's all been for nothing. It was all preventable.
Sure, I agree.
You cannot confess to a crime that big. I mean, there's no punishment bad enough for that. It's not just like saying Bill Clinton confessing he had an affair. I mean, it makes the mind boggle. I mean, I can't even imagine how big it would be. I mean, do you remember my presidential disclosure video, which was so controversial? I mean, if you can get, I mean, I'm hoping that when we get a new president, I'm going to remake that video and I'm going to dress up as the new president. I hope it's not Hillary.
You have to wear a wig.
I will remake that video and give you an idea about exactly from their position what they have to go through.
So, what are your thoughts, Venerina, on this?
Well, I told you my thoughts. I think it's just a distraction policy. And one thing that I was just running through my mind there when I was thinking about this distraction thing is, do you? I don't know if you know, but do you know that China's to sell 15 billion yuan in T-bonds? Why would China want to sell 15 billion yuan worth of T-bonds? China has an enormous debt that nobody knows about. They're saying that the debt is into 14.1 trillion yuan. So is this the Chinese have this culture. I worked in China for 6 months, and they have this culture of saving face. Okay, everything has to be about saving face. So is this fake landing on the moon a saving face to disguise the fact that they have this enormous debt? Is it telling the world, no, we're not in debt because we can spend this money on sending missions to the moon? Whereas, in fact, China is more in debt than the entire world put together.
Yeah, but maybe so. Maybe that's exactly what's going on. I mean, this is we're playing once again. We do this a lot on the show. Is just play the speculation game.
Now, I hadn't heard China was 14 billion or trillion in debt. That's an interesting. I've heard that they were doing pretty good. So,
well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know recently China's banned people from trading in Bitcoin. So,
did they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they banned. You can't use Bitcoin in China to do any kind of business. So.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
All right, then, guys. Now we have a lot more to talk about. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Benry. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say I found a link. I've just gone on the internet and found a link that I'll send to Trevor about the debt in China. I take it back. Apparently, that was the debt till the end of last year. So by this year, they're estimating that the debt is now at nearly 20 trillion yuan.
Oh my gosh!
You can never pay that back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so huge.
Money's
I mean, Trevor.
Debt is... Yes, sorry.
I was going to say, how can they actually prevent people using Bitcoin? I mean, is there laws they can bring in to prevent that?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because the internet.
Well, what they would do, Ben, is just make it illegal. I mean, people could still do it. It's just like, even though in China they have the great firewall of China, where most Western sites are blocked. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can bypass that relatively easily and get access to the regular internet. But if you get caught, you got some serious shit to deal with. And it's probably the same with Bitcoin. They make Bitcoin illegal, which means that, yes, if you know what you're doing, you can still trade in Bitcoin and do whatever you're going to do. But if you get caught, you got issues.
Yeah, like they might check and go, how you been living for the last year? Why do you have all these things? And then they start looking at, I'm sure they can find transactions. So you can do Bitcoin to Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
But to actually start buying it and whatnot, like you have to use services like a PayPal, or so all of a sudden, boom, as soon as you do that, they know what you've done.
So you can't, they just make it illegal. It's not like they can physically stop you from doing it. You can still do whatever you want. But if you get caught, then you got to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, and I don't want to be in China dealing with consequences. It doesn't sound pretty over there.
I know, it's pretty crazy. All right, then, guys, let's. We got a lot to talk about today. We got a ton of clips coming up. Some great shows so far. Some great more topics to come up. Let's take a real quick break, and we'll be right back. So smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Mindset Daily.
Mindset Daily, hosted by Joe Dunn, a twice weekly and sometimes daily wrap-up on the current news of the strange. Every episode will highlight and comment on news stories that have either not made it into the mainstream or just grabbed our attention. Mindset Daily, your bite-sized alternate news fix. You can listen to Mindset Daily at mindsetcentral.com.
Mindset Daily. You're listening to the Mindset Network. You can now hear all of the Mindset Central podcasts while on the go with the Stitcher Smart Radio app. On-demand news, talk, and more on your mobile phone. The latest episodes at Mindset Central are always available for you. No syncing needed and no memory or storage wasted. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android phones, and beyond. Downloading is easy. Go to Stitcher.com or check out your app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to MindsetCentral.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Mindset Podcast. That was Ian Byrne with his Dylan-esque track, Nothing Left to Lose. Tell us about that one, Joe.
Yeah, that was a recent song I played on Mindset Radio Hour, the last episode, 45. Ian Byrne, loving that artist. He's an up-and-coming artist. He's working on a new album. And we played Enough, and that song you just heard was Nothing Left to Lose. In the show notes for this episode of the Mindset Podcast, I'll have a link right there. You click that, and if you go to that link, scroll down and look for Ian Byrne right there. You can get 2 free songs right there. So there you have it.
Excellent. Yes, great track. Very Bob Dylan-ish. You can tell.
Yeah, he sounds like that.
You can tell who his influences are, but great stuff. I love that track. Very good.
Yeah, he even says Bob Dylan and Tom Petty, 2 of his influences.
Yeah, you can hear it big time. All right, guys, let's move on here. We got a ton of stuff to get to, so let's get cracking here and get this going. Now, this week in the news, another big news story, especially in the U.S., was the execution of Kim Jong-un's uncle, the number 2 guy in North Korea. He was very publicly dragged out of the state capital and was executed. And there's multiple pictures online with him being taken out of the big auditorium where they're having their big political meeting, and the goons come down, just drag him out of there. And there's lots of pictures of him being pulled out and the look of shock on his face, like, what the hell? And taken away, and now they're reporting that he has in fact been executed. Now I have a clip here detailing the news of this, how it played out on local LA television here, and then I'd like to get everyone's take on the situation in North Korea and what may or may not be happening. Here we go.
The uncle of North Korea leader Kim Jong-un has been executed. North Korea made the announcement today, calling Jang Song-taek a traitor. He was the country's second in command. Eyewitness News reporter Alex Michelson joins us live from the newsroom to tell us what he was accused of doing. Alex?
Michelle, North Korea state media says Kim Jong-un's uncle by marriage was trying to seize power. That's one of many accusations that's being leveled against him tonight. According to the North Korean government, Kim Jong-un's own brother, armed with a pistol, participated in the arrest of his uncle.
Jang Song-taek, seen here in white, was the second most powerful man in all of North Korea and the most trusted advisor to his nephew Kim Jong-un. But just a few days ago, with cameras capturing the moment, he was very publicly stripped of his duties in Pyongyang. He's accused of corruption, drug use, gambling, and womanizing. Today, North Korea's state media announces his execution, describing him as despicable human scum, worse than a dog, and a traitor for all ages.
To me, it's more concerning that the leader of North Korea sacks the number 1 man, the man he most trusts, Jang Song-taek, and then last summer sacked the top general in the system. If you cannot trust your number 1 and number 2 man in the system, that clearly means you don't trust anybody.
In August, Kim Jong-un's ex-girlfriend was reportedly executed by firing squad after alleged sex tapes surfaced. Still, North Korea's unpredictable young leader has shown some willingness to work with the West, or at least tamp down the rhetoric when it comes to nuclear weapons. And he's developed an odd couple friendship with ex-NBA star Dennis Rodman.
He said, Dennis, I want you to go over to America and say, guess what? We want people to come over here.
When Korean War veteran Merrill Newman visited North Korea, he was detained at the airport and held for 6 weeks. Newman now says he was forced to read a confession letter written for him by the state.
In U.S. and Western countries, there is misleading information.
Newman was allowed to return home to California this past weekend, but American Kenneth Bae remains in captivity there, detained for more than a year. All the while, Kim Jong-un continues to consolidate power.
A spokesman for the U.S. State Department says he can't confirm the death of Kim Jong-un's uncle, but has every reason to believe that it's true. He says if it is, quote, this is just another example of the extreme brutality of the North Korean regime. Reporting live from the newsroom tonight, Alex Michelson, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So there you have it. Consolidation of power. It sounds like Kim Jong-un is extremely paranoid and protective of his power. His concerns in regard to his girlfriend and his uncle, who were both executed, may or may not be valid. I mean, they might have been, up to no good trying to get him out of there or plotting against him, or not. But either way, they've both been swept out of the way and executed, so they're no longer a threat. The way North Korea is kind of portrayed to the world is this kind of crazy country. When you ask people on the street, they're like, I can't believe the people of North Korea put up with this. Why would they allow such a tiny minority to dictate and rule their lives in such a brutal, oppressive way? And all I can say is, well, what we're seeing in North Korea is basically a little tiny kind of glimpse into the future of planet Earth in the next 100 years. Anyone care to comment?
Yeah, and in fact...
Go ahead, Ben. You started first.
Okay. Well, in fact, American journalist Christopher Hitchens actually went to North Korea, and he said that it was the country in the world that reminded him most of George Orwell's 1984.
Right.
Is this religious worship of the leader? He's more than just a political leader. He takes over the role of God in a religious country. So it's rather like a theocracy, like Saudi Arabia, an extreme theocracy. North Korea is similar, but the leader is the god.
Yeah.
And Kim Jong-un is the 33rd richest man in the world. He's a Western-educated, rich kid who's been spoiled his whole life. He's now in a position of megalomaniacal power, and he can kill people if he wants to, and
sure.
He's obviously willing to kill even people, members of his own family, his own partner, and whatever the real reason was he took those people out, it's obvious that these people were threats to him and to his power, and I think it's like his father was. I mean, if you go to the North Korean website, the North Korean government portal, it's really fascinating. It would be funny if it wasn't so. These things didn't happen. Of course, the people inside North Korea cannot see this website because they can't see any of the World Wide Web. They have an intranet, but they can't access the World Wide Web. But it says things like, on the day Kim Jong-il was born, swallows gathered on the eaves of the house where he was born, and angels sang in the heavens. It's rather like almost biblical. And there was this ridiculous statement that's been taken down now, is that the great, they called him the dear leader. He doesn't have to go to the toilet, apparently. Only mortals have to go to the toilet. And the original president, Kim Il-sung, the first leader, he's still ruling the country from heaven. He's eternal president in emeritus or something like that.
Now, you see, we
insane.
Well, it is. I mean, it's lunacy, and we laugh at this, right? We're like, oh my God, those crazy North Koreans, they're out of their minds. This is a bunch of mental cases running the country, and how can the people stand for this? But this is going to this is going to
almost
happen.
2 million of them have died of starvation
Dude,
since 1990.
We're getting a glimpse of the future here. I mean, I don't
live in
wanna,
terrible poverty.
Of course. Now, Trevor, you were going to say something, and I want to get your take on this. So go right ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add, like, when you're saying they're interviewing people in the States and they're shocked, and I say, well, I'll tell you, like, there's steps of government. If this is the system, people put in place, you want to have authority.
Right.
It starts off like the great American Republic,
right.
And it turns into an empire. I said,
sure.
You're right. Korea is a glimpse into our future, because now look at the United States. Like, every year they're taking away, they're adding totalitarian rules like
sure.
NSA, Patriot Act, all these things every year. And then an event comes up and, we're going to do even more to take your freedoms away. And I say to people, you're afraid of North Korea? This is going to happen here, because government is a system that starts off small. It always starts off beautiful. We're just going to let you do what you want. And you can. The Americans, they were like, trading here and trading there. Well, then the government, they sit back and they wait, and then they take a little bit more. We're going to tax a little bit more here. We're going to put some trade restrictions here. And next thing you know, like, the United States now is just it's a nightmare compared to what it started out from. But it will end up like North Korea. It's inevitable with any form of government. I don't care the flavor. You can call it the Mickey Mouse Club for all I care. Government, North Korea. It's like somebody dropped 1984, the book, in there 50 years ago or 60 years ago, and someone read it and went, wow, this is a good blueprint. Let's use this.
It's what the David Icke calls.
But Americans don't think it, or not Americans,
of course.
Canadians too. They don't. Oh, that's
people
not
in
going to
general.
happen here. And I said,
it's what David Icke calls the totalitarian tiptoe. And I mean, that's a funny little play on words there, but it's absolutely correct, because you do everything in small little baby steps, slowly walking towards a complete totalitarian, oppressive state and or regime. You can't just do that. Wake up one morning and think, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to be a totalitarian state today, because the people are not. That shit's not going to fly. The people, there'll be revolution. So what you do is you do it a little bit at a time. A little bit. 1 year you do this, then you wait another 5-10 years, then you do that, then you wait another 5 years, you do this, and you keep moving forward very, very slowly until one day the people of the United States or the world will just wake up and think, whoa, we're living in an oppressive totalitarian regime where we can't. The freedom is gone, and you see this happening throughout the world. You see it here in the U.S. You definitely see it in the U.K. Hardcore is it happening in the U.K., but it's happening planet-wide. Some countries are a little more ahead of the game than others, but we're all moving in that direction, unfortunately. Venerina, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I think I have mixed thoughts on this one. My big question is, what's the aunt's role in this? Because even though the uncle's been executed, the aunt is still a part of the government, and a very strong one. She's one of the most powerful women in North Korea. So that's my first question. What's her role in this, in the execution of her husband? Why is she still in power? Why did she not side with her husband? And then I would ask, is this a show of strength for internal policy, or is this a show of strength external policy, or is this a trade-off that he has done with the Western world? There are too many ifs for me, and too many. It's not clear cut.
Well, another thing we got to throw out there is that we don't know. We don't even know whether this dude has even been executed. Right?
That's another detail.
This is just what the media is telling us, and not just the Western media, because the Western media is getting this story from the North Korean media. So whether or not he's even dead, who knows? I mean, the likelihood is he probably is. He probably was executed, but ultimately we don't know.
How was it leaked out?
It wasn't. I don't think it was leaked. I think it was a release. I mean, they released the photographs of him being dragged away. It wasn't a leak. It was a deliberate press release that, this guy was up to no good. And they even released a press release saying that he was human scum, lower than a dog.
But the other weird thing is that they've now called all businessmen back from abroad that have anything to do with interaction with China.
Well, apparently China's
they're
not
linking
happy
it to
about
this
this,
execution.
right?
So there's something else here that we're not seeing.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with overthrowing the government.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all to do with business.
It very well could be. Yeah, absolutely. We don't know. I mean, we don't even know what they're telling us really happened. We don't. I mean, in all likelihood, it probably did, but ultimately, we do not know. I mean, we're so used to governments and media just barefaced lying to us, right? Just making shit up and telling us that it's real. We're so used to that when we see a story like this, we can't help think, well, did that really happen?
Well, that's another thing, isn't it, Gareth? We've got to remember that the media has a tendency to actually be sensational. That's what they go for, sensationalism.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
so what they've done is they've jumped on this story. They're telling it one way. It might not be the truth the way they're telling it. They've sensationalized it. And it's also a tool for manipulating public opinion about North Korea. So if the US should ever get involved one day, then the population of America or us, the onlookers would turn around and say, oh, well, that's okay. We can bomb the crap out of them because they just execute innocent people.
Well, here's the thing it does also is that when people see this on the news, they shake their heads and like, oh, it's so ridiculous. Oh, my God, it's terrible. The guy killed his uncle. But that would never happen here. There's no way. Oh, that would never happen in this country. There's no way. Please, come on.
What did John F. Kennedy die of then? Did he fall off his horse?
Didn't you have a cold or something, Ben? You had like a nasty cold?
He sneezed too hard.
Yeah, he sneezed too hard and blew his head off. I mean, that would never happen here. Of course not. Oh, no. Please.
And then Diana crashing a car in the
we
tunnel.
don't even have to go that far back, do we?
Oh, I don't know, guys. I mean, it's.
I think they should just keep executing themselves, political leaders. Because I think about, it would never happen in America, but didn't America just kill 13 people at a wedding again in Yemeni?
Well, I told that wedding party many times, you should have invited Americans.
Yeah.
And then Obama says, no, our drone strikes never, ever touch civilians.
Yeah, it's all very, very, very disturbing.
He's a lying scumbag.
Yeah, we live in a very ugly world. Actually, that's not true. We live in a beautiful, wonderful world. It's just the people that are currently in power throughout. I'm not just singling out. Planet-wide. Regardless of which country you're listening to us in right now. It doesn't matter whether you're in Europe, in the U.S., in Asia, in Australia, wherever you listen to this. Every country on the planet is packed to the fucking gills with scum-sucking pieces of filth that don't give a rat's ass about you. Everywhere.
Amen.
They don't give two fucks about the people. All they're interested in is self-preservation and lining their fucking pockets. End of story.
And it's getting worse.
Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see how this plays out with North Korea. Let's move on because we do have a lot of stories to get through, and I really want to get through them all because they're very, very relevant, and I want to get everyone's take on this stuff. Next up, God, when will this end? We had another school shooting here in the U.S. this week. This is just blowing my mind.
I've lost track.
It's unbelievable. I have a clip here which is just staggering beyond belief. Let's have a quick listen, then we'll get everyone's take on this incredible lunacy that's descended on this country.
The gunman who opened fire at his own high school in Colorado has been identified tonight. His classmates are speaking out about him and a possible motive for the shooting. Eyewitness News reporter Alex Michelson joins us live from the Satellite Center with more. Alex.
David, tomorrow is the one-year anniversary of the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut. Parents there say that today's incident is the 25th school shooting since.
Now, I want to just stop it right there and kind of let everyone kind of digest what this guy just said. Let me play it one more time.
Is the 25th school shooting since.
Students are evacuated.
Think about that, okay? Sandy Hook was a year ago, and since then there has been 25 school shootings since that date. Now let me continue the clip, and we'll get into this.
Students are evacuated from Arapahoe High School after a fellow student opens fire on campus.
It was terrifying because we heard gunshots.
There was screaming. We heard someone yell, help me, we need help.
The 18-year-old shooter is identified as Carl Pearson, seen here in his yearbook photo. Eyewitnesses say he walks onto campus carrying a shotgun and at least one Molotov cocktail. He calls out the name of his target, librarian and debate team coach Tracy Murphy. Sources say Pearson was mad because he was recently kicked off the debate team.
When he busted through the doors, shotgun loaded, yelling, it looked like he was going for Mr. Murphy specifically.
Knowing he's the target, Murphy flees the campus before Pearson ever sees him.
In my opinion, was the most important tactical decision that could have been made.
Unable to find Murphy, Pearson shoots a 15-year-old girl.
It was pretty scary. There were 2 shots by my classroom. Then we heard the screaming.
With authorities closing in, Pearson then turns the gun on himself.
He was the last person I'd expect to ever shoot up a high school.
He ran track. He was on speech and debate. He was a really smart, intelligent kid.
Whatever we were talking about, he always had something to say, wanted to be right. Never wanted anyone to tell him he was wrong. Definitely have noticed that in the classes that I was in with him.
Authorities are now looking for clues at the suspect's home located near the school. Arapahoe High School is just 16 miles from Aurora, the site of last year's movie theater massacre, and just 6 miles from Columbine High School. These latest pictures looking so eerily familiar to the pictures 14 years ago in Columbine when 13 people were gunned down.
My husband was a freshman at Columbine, so he's freaking out right now. It's bringing back horrible memories.
Amazing to think that parent was a freshman at Columbine during that shooting. Now, a bit of good news tonight. Earlier, the sheriff had said that 2 people were shot in this. In reality, it was only one girl that was shot. The other girl had blood on her from the first girl that was shot, but she is now fine tonight. The girl that was shot, though, remains hospitalized. Reporting live from the Satellite Center, Alex Michelson, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Alex, thank you.
Where do we begin? Where do we begin with this madness?
I didn't even know.
It's to me when I think here, this is just he says 25 school shootings since Sandy Hook last year, 25, and all I can think in my head are what are the odds? What are the odds that these maniacs, these completely random and unrelated lunatics can just lose it, grab a gun and run through a school indiscriminately shooting people out of the blue, just completely random. 25 in 1 year.
And that's just schools.
All I can think of is...
That doesn't include the Washington Navy Yard and things like that.
Exactly. All I can think of, Ben, is that there is no way. There is no way that this could randomly happen in the space of 1 year. There's no way.
And what's more, as it says in that clip, it's 5 miles from Aurora and 6 miles from Columbine.
Exactly.
Now, is there anywhere else in the entire world that has 3 incidents in the space of few square miles?
There's no way, dude.
It is beyond all.
It's beyond. I mean, we should have won the lottery 6 times over with this nonsense. I mean, there is no way this is random. And I cannot believe that people on the news, I can, but I can't believe that people aren't coming out and saying, this doesn't make sense. I mean, the laws of probability that these would randomly happen are astronomical. There must be an underlying thread tying all these incidents together. There has to be. There's no way this could be a random incident.
Is Colorado becoming too independent from the federal government?
I mean, there's no way. What's your take on it, Trevor? What do you think's going on?
Well, I mean, for the past 6 months, I would say probably it could be even longer. The Colorado's been desperately fighting to get marijuana legalized. I don't know what that plays into it, but all of a sudden, Obama's like, screw you. I don't care. I'm still going to go in. I'm going to send my thugs in, and I'm going to raid dispensaries. And it's like they're overriding a state. Yeah. So I don't know what that plays into it. I'm just trying to think. Colorado. What's going on there politically? I don't think it's an economic engine.
I don't think it's necessarily a Colorado issue. I mean, there are a high propensity of these things that have taken place in Colorado, but this has taken place. These incidents take place throughout the United States. I think it's far bigger than whether or not marijuana is legal or not. I think something far more insidious and dark is going on here than whether or not somebody can smoke out.
Sure.
I think we should get a map.
What's going on there that's big, but.
What do you think, Joe?
We should get a map out and really mark down the regions and plot out where these shootings are happening because, like Ben mentioned, these ones are so close together. Yeah. That's what strikes me, which is so weird about this.
What would be really interesting is if we did that, Joe, and we marked them all out. It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see how close military bases are to those facilities.
And have a time
and that's my next
as well.
What's that?
Is there some kind of testing?
Go ahead. We're talking over each other. Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, Joe. I was just going to say we should have a time graph as well, with one axis the years and months going into the past, and the other axis the number of shootings. Because I think in the last 2 years we've had so many. If you want to find the number of shootings throughout history before the last 2 years, you probably have to go back till decades till records began.
I would agree.
1950, something like that.
I mean, let's be clear here, okay? Is it possible that some people could just lose it and go a little crazy and do some stupid stuff? Absolutely. There's no question. But what we're talking about here is the frequency of these events. I mean, if these events were just 100% random, the kid got a little mental, he lost his mind, he did some stupid stuff, got his dad's gun and went out and did some horrific things. If that was just completely random and unrelated, we would get those incidents, but they would be like what? Once a decade, once every 30 years. They would be extremely rare. They would still happen, but they would be extremely rare. The propensity for these things to be going on in the frequency that they are is off the charts. It's beyond random. Venerina, what are you?
Obama's been pushing gun control the last few years, big time. This just adds to the gun control.
I agree. That might tie into it also. Well, let me get Venerina's take on this. What are your thoughts, Venerina?
Actually, I'm behind you 100%, Gareth. I think that the odds for something like this happening are it's just non-existent. And the thing that gets me is the MO is always the same. The shooter always takes his own life in the same way with the same gun.
Right.
But you were talking about this. Now, I remember when Sandy Hook happened, we'd linked, not just us, but we talked about the FEMA and the fact that they were just around the corner having a meeting, weren't they, about how to prevent emergencies or how to deal with emergencies in schools. Well, while you were talking, out of curiosity, I went to the FEMA website and I see here that they're actually doing a state strategic plan, especially for Colorado, which will be open until the 31st of December. So who's to say this is not another FEMA exercise? Because they're in the state of Colorado. Do you know, I'm very cynical when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, to me, it's just purely probability. There's no way. The amount of times this happens in the short amount of space of time, these events take place. It's unbelievable. It makes no sense. We should all be struck by lightning right now, or win the lottery. The odds against this randomly happening, it's off the charts. It doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of military bases there too.
Yeah, there's got to be. Now, you brought up Sandy Hook, and this kind of ties into our next story. It's the 1-year anniversary for the horrific events, the heartbreaking, soul-crushing events that the media told us about in Sandy Hook. And I have a clip here where this was the local news affiliate in Sandy Hook, I believe, talking about 1 year on. And it's just a minute or two. I think we should play the whole thing and then get everyone's take on 1 year later, those terrible events.
We turn now to the day's other big story as we pause to honor and remember the 26 children and adults killed at the Sandy Hook Elementary School 1 year ago today. Governor Dannel Malloy says he plans to attend a mass in Newtown and volunteer for a charity today. And like it is for so many of us, it's hard for him to talk about it. The governor got emotional when asked about it at a news conference.
You know what, I'm trying to... I'm doing my best to be respectful of the community, okay? Thank you.
Can understand that feeling. It's just hard to find the words. There have been hundreds of memorials, though, to the victims of the tragedy at Sandy Hook. A local photographer traveled around the state to capture some of those things on film. John Carley's photos now are on display at the state capitol in an exhibit called Photographs of Hope. There are more than 100 of those pictures on display now through the end of the year. You can see them in the Capitol Complex Concourse Tunnel. That shooting happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, but the impact of the tragedy has reached far beyond that town. In some way, it's affected everyone who lives here and lives beyond here. Parents and grandparents, educators and lawmakers. This morning, News 8's Josh Scheinblum is in New Haven, showing us what towns and cities and people across the state are doing to remember today. Good morning, Josh.
Chris, it's hard to believe, but it has been 1 year since that tragedy happened when 26 souls lost their lives over at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, and at churches all over the state of Connecticut, like this one right here over on the New Haven Green that we're standing out in front of. The governor of the state of Connecticut, Dannel Malloy, is encouraging them to ring their bells some 26 times, each one in memory of each person who lost their life that day. Now, these ceremonies that are taking place across the the state isn't the only way that the governor's office is asking people to remember those that lost their lives. They're also encouraging people today to encourage in 26 acts of kindness, and they're suggesting people do any number of things, whether it be donate to a charity, possibly doing some volunteer hours, or just doing something different, nice for their fellow members here of the Nutmeg State. It's certainly a day that emotions are going to be raw for a lot of people, and there will also be a lot of ceremonies as well, in addition to those 26 bells being run, including a moment of silence taking place in Norwalk, Connecticut later today. We'll be there over at that ceremony to bring you the latest. So make sure you stay with us here on News 8 to find out how that one goes. For now, we're live in New Haven. Josh Scheinblum, News 8.
Now, we're going to go someplace here which most people are going to be disgusted by, and understandably so. And it makes me very conflicted also, because, I mean, the way that these events were portrayed were truly tragic, heartbreaking, I mean, horrific when you think about all those little kids that were brutally gunned. I mean, it doesn't even bear thinking about. It's truly horrific and devastating. It makes me sick to my very core to even consider that these events took place. But did they take place? Now, we're going to get into that area right now where we're going to get disgust, eye-rolling, people questioning our mental health, all of the above. Because if you bring this up to regular people out in the real world, they're going to look at you like you're a mental case, and look at you with absolute vile contempt and disgust for even thinking these thoughts. And the thoughts I'm talking about are, did Sandy Hook even happen? What are your thoughts, Ben?
I have a lot of doubts over whether it happened or not. I think it's there. As you say, Gareth, there are a lot of things that don't fit. There's the strange behaviour of the people interviewed. We were told were parents and police officers and other people in the area. There was the lack of news coverage of the scene. There's strange sympathy. Again, if this is Illuminati, then they like to let us know in advance. And there's that strange coincidence of the word Sandy Hook in the Batman, the Dark Knight movie.
Yeah.
As well. The strange coincidence that this is a very violent movie, this film. The film itself features, I think it's the Joker. Heath Ledger plays the Joker, and he's constantly shooting everyone up all over the place. He's very different from the Joker from the TV series. And there's one scene in which you actually see the word Sandy Hook, and I think there's something else involved with it as well. And that was, of course, the premiere of that film in Aurora, Colorado, of course, was interrupted by a young man with an assault rifle.
We're confusing two movies here, Ben. The Colorado one in the movie theater was for The Dark Knight Rises, which was the latest version of the latest Batman movie, whereas the movie you're talking about was The Dark Knight, which was from 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, right. Yep, I got a different movie. It is Dark Knight Rises where Sandy Hook was.
Okay, yeah, right.
It was definitely the new one.
Okay. But yeah, there's an awful lot of stuff that took place in Sandy Hook which doesn't add up and doesn't make sense. And I mean, if you're just sitting in front of the television, consuming regular mainstream news, listening to us right now, you're shaking your head and rolling your eyes and thinking we're a bunch of mental cases. But if you do dig a little deeper and ask some questions and look into what may or may not have taken place, then there's a lot of open-ended questions. There's some really good video evidence on YouTube that really makes you think. And from my perspective, as horrific as the events portrayed by mainstream media are, I kind of want it to be real. Because the alternative, that it's not real, that it is stage, is far darker and far more disturbing from my point of view. What are your thoughts, Trevor?
Well, my thoughts whenever I see these, I have people sending me stuff and whatnot, and I search the net for people that look the same from all these incidences. Like there's kids and there's women. It seems I see a lot more women. That look. I'm looking and people are like, okay, how could this woman possibly be in Boston bombing and then Sandy Hook and it's like. And then you're looking, and they're like, "Oh, it's not the same woman." Someone will say, "Well, the noses aren't quite the same." I'm going, it's like a 99%.
Right.
It looks the same. Like, I mean, you can take a picture of me from a year ago. I mean, I haven't cut my hair for a year, and I mean, I look different, but the people are like, "Well, is he kind of the same?" Like, I mean, these pictures are so close to looking the same people that I go, is this real or not? And I hate questioning myself like that because, Gareth, I'm in the same boat. I go, if this is being set up, there's some sick fucking bastards out there that just like killing people.
It's far worse.
Like I've said before on the show before.
Oh, absolutely.
I think some people have everything in the world they want. If they want men, women, boats, cars, whatever. But the one thing they lust is just watching someone die.
Well, it makes this if. I mean, I want it's not that I want it to be real. I mean, I wish it never happened.
Right.
But I want the real story to be real because the alternative is so devastatingly horrific that it chills you to the bone.
But wouldn't you
go ahead, Joe?
I know, and it does. And what I think about Gareth is, okay, so some of these clues slip out to where people like can question it. Like how we're doing it. Wouldn't you think they'd cover it up better, or it's just something like they're letting things being hinted out?
Most people, 99% of the people that they believe it. They believe that what took place, and that's all there is to it. But there is an awful lot of alternate evidence out there that really makes you think. It really does not make sense when you look at the witnesses. The thing that Trevor brought up right now, that's legitimate concern. We see this so often. The same faces showing up in multiple tragic events. There's no way.
Wasn't there some kind of photo associated with this with Obama? One of the victims
with the little girl, yeah.
Supposedly was dead, but was in the photo or something.
She's wearing the same dress. There's so many little quirks like that don't add up, that don't make sense, that really makes you think, did this really happen? Now, from my perspective, something happened here in L.A. Because, when something like this happens, all these local news stations throughout the United States, they send at least a reporter and a camera guy. They fly them over there so that they can do live reports from the area. And now we go to Joe Blow at the scene, right? And they say, "Oh, thank you, we're here at Sandy Hook, blah, blah, blah," and they fly them out there. Now, one of the local L.A. affiliates here, they sent one of their reporters out there to do like live links and live coverage from the area around this time last year. So he went out there, he did his standard reports, the tragedy, blah, blah, blah. When he gets back, right, and he's back in the local L.A. studio. And something strange happened. I wish I would have recorded this, but unfortunately I did not. They're at the news desk, and they just finished a story on Sandy Hook because it was done. There was like the funerals were all over. It was all done. And one of the news, like they do like little banter between the news people. This chick turns to the guy and says, "Now you were at the scene. You were there for the last week reporting live. Could you tell us a little bit about what took place there?" And I'm majorly paraphrasing here because this is purely from memory. He was like, "Well, there were some very strange things going on there, things that didn't make sense, and I couldn't really get my head around it." And then he started laughing, right? And then he said, "I really don't want to talk about it." And
that's interesting.
And then they cut back to whatever.
That's very. I believe you, but I find it hard to believe.
Yeah.
That he would actually say that on TV like that.
And they cut away from him, and he laughed. He laughed on TV and said, "You know what? It was very strange. It was very weird. Some very strange things were going on there." And I really don't want to talk about it on air. Cut.
I found it interesting.
And here's the weather.
How they built the new school.
You know? Yeah. They tear down the school and build another. Why would they do that? What's the point of that? Doesn't make any sense.
That's one concern I have too. Like, why would they rip a perfectly good school down?
Yeah. Isn't the educational system starving for money?
There's a ton of other schools in the States that probably need ripping down.
That's right. I mean, the educational system's starving for money, right? This is a perfectly fine school. Why would they tear it down? Could it be that, there's no bullet holes in the walls? I don't know. Let me get Venerina in on this. No, I think I already asked you, Venerina, right? What was going on?
No, you didn't. Not yet.
Then go for it.
We covered this last year on the Mindset Central. We did a lot of digging last year. I remember when we covered the story.
Yeah.
And my opinion hasn't changed since then. I hope in my heart that I'm right, but I believe that it was complete hoax. I don't think anybody was killed, except maybe the shooter. And there was too much, like you said, like you've all said. The evidence didn't add up. No emergency services were allowed in the area. The kids, there were only 12 kids as shown marching out of the school, when a school like that should have had how many, 200 or 300 kids at least. There were no concerned parents apart from the few people that you saw in every single shot and everything. There isn't enough evidence to convince me that it actually took place. And tearing down the school, like you said, why? But again, it brings me back to what I said earlier. FEMA, they were there. They were doing an exercise. I think it was just 2 blocks away. They were having a conference that was about emergency evacuation services to protect children in schools in case of emergencies. Yeah. Now, so every time there is something major like this, FEMA seem to be doing something in the area or near the area, or discussing something in the area.
Yeah. Now, if you go to YouTube and you type in Sandy Hook hoax, you'll get an enormous amount of video evidence and or clips, which, I mean, some of it is garbage, but some of them will really, really make you scratch your head and think, what? Huh? Because it'll really plant some seeds that the whole thing doesn't add up. So I would advise listeners to do that. And if you want to see how brainwashed and in the box most people are as far as critical thinking and thinking and questioning the news and to what's really going on. If you are a listener and if you are brave enough, mention to somebody this week that you know that Sandy Hook was a hoax. If you're brave enough to do that. And watch the reaction you'll get. Now, I understand, you might want to not go down that path because the reaction you'll get is going to be a little disconcerting. But if you do have the gumption to do that, as an experiment, give it a shot and see the reaction that you'll
Gareth?
get. Yeah.
My apologies. Just as soon as you were going to say asked what the person, my audio went down for about 10 seconds. So I actually didn't hear what we're supposed to ask.
No, just ask somebody that just put it out there that you think that Sandy Hook is a hoax.
Okay. Okay.
And just
right.
just judge the reaction. I mean, if you want to go down that path, just to see the reaction of other people, because. No. You're going to get a crazy reaction.
My theory on all this too, and FEMA as well too, if I could just add it, or
go ahead.
There is a strong sense. I don't know the numbers of the population in the States, but there's there was supposed to be an armed march on Washington last May. Fell named Adam Kokesh. It fizzled apart because he was going to start in the Arlington Cemetery, which is run by the military, which would not be a good place to start. They were going to march across the bridge, can't remember the name, but everyone was going to carry a gun. And there was 10,000 people signed up for it. Now it fizzled away. But my theory is a lot of these Sandy Hooks, maybe they're preparing for the next American Revolution. I don't know when that could happen.
Well,
or these people are there is a good percentage of the American population that are they're saying the American government it's sucking people dry. So there's look, you can go and do black market kind of ways of dealing with people, or there's the out front, and there is people who say, fuck it, I'm not doing this underground shit anymore. I'm going to pick up my gun and I'm going to march on to Washington. No, so I'm wondering if a lot of these cases are the U.S. government preparing for such an event.
I think there is definitely a move afoot to disarm Americans, right? They're definitely trying to do that. I mean, here in California, I mean, we're a very, very liberal state. So guns are kind of looked down upon anyway as a cultural norm here, right? Whereas in other states in the Union, guns are very much a part of life. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people in California with guns who are heavily armed, because there are, and I know a few of them. I am not one of those people, I should hasten to add. I do not own a gun and have no desire to own a gun. But it is kind of looked down upon, and a lot of liberals here in California are very much anti-gun. The events that we've discussed here with these school shootings, the Aurora movie theater, Columbine, and Sandy Hook, all of these things play into a move to disarm Americans. This is something that's not going to happen tomorrow. This is a long-term view. It's going to take a long time to get this done, because if you make we're going to make it harder for somebody to legally get a gun, or we're going to add more restrictions for people. Well, because of criminal activity. Well, criminals are well known to obey the law, right? Criminals pay attention to the law, and if they make something illegal, criminals say, "Oh, okay, then we can't do that anymore," right? It makes no sense. But anyway, let's move on from the whole gun scenario. But I'm sure that'll appear in future episodes of the Mindset Podcast as these horrific, tragic events continue to unfold, as I'm sure they will. Now, at the beginning of the show, Venerina alluded to something that was going on between Russia, China, and India. And we have a clip here which will play into that. And I also feel that what we're being told about this is definitely tip of the iceberg. There's something far more insidious going on. But here's a clip about gay rights in India.
India's Supreme Court has ruled that a colonial-era law criminalising homosexuality, abolished in 2009, will be reinstated. Supporters of gay rights in the country said they were angry and sad, but would continue the fight for equal rights.
Now, this echoes something that has been going on in Russia for the last year. And I was always a little shocked by this. Because the Russian revelations that they were suddenly going to become vehemently anti-gay came kind of out of the blue, right? It was like, suddenly Russia is becoming, this kind of more open, democratic, free society. Then all of a sudden, boom, being gay is illegal. And I was a little taken aback by that. I was like, wow, where'd that come from, right? What are your thoughts, Venerina?
Well, actually, not a lot of people actually know this, but there are some countries in the world where being homosexual is punishable by death. Now, such countries are Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Sudan. Are you seeing any patterns here yet? The connections?
All right. Keep going.
So I decided to go digging a little bit deeper. Now, we know that Russia, Iran, India, Pakistan, and all the unlikely bedfellows have suddenly shaken hands, or if you like, in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, this cooperation was the one that we saw last year standing against the US when they wanted to invade Iran, or when they wanted to attack Iran. And we also see them in arms dealing. We also see them in oil that's not controlled by the US. We see them in a lot of things, but the curiosity, my point of bringing this up is, at the moment in India, there are 1.2 billion people. Now, we know that the New World Order's plan is to cut back on the population. Now, between 2,100,000 and 2,600,000 people in India have HIV already. Now, if these people can't get medication because of discrimination, because it's going to be more difficult for them now to get medication because they're going to be discriminalized, they're going to be marginated, they risk being imprisoned, harassed, or even killed by anti-gay movement. Now, there's another thing to this, that the birth rate at the moment in India is 6 children per 1 woman.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
But the death rate is only 6.4. The birth rate is 22.22 per 100 people, but the death rate is only 6.4 per 1,000 people. Okay. Now, if you want to wipe out the world, you wipe out some of the population, how would you do it?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, wiping out segments of the population is something that's usually not playing on my mind, but
you concentrate on the most populous countries now. As Venerina's explained, India has a huge population, and if you sort of get rid of India and then get rid of China, you're really almost halfway there, actually.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But the thing is, it's very clever, because if they're going to do it through letting HIV run rampant, people are going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Very easily. And apart from that, a lot of people that could be able to get treatment, because treatment in India costs between 1,000 to 2,000 rupees. Now, the average wage in India is only 5,000 rupees. So how many people will be able to afford to actually get treatment if they could go for treatment? But because it's outlawed, being homosexual, treatment is not going to be an option.
So they just let you die.
So they just let you die, exactly. But the connection, I think there's something a lot more deeper and sinister going on, because, like you said, Russia declared that homosexuality was illegal. And like I said, Russia is now in bed with India and in bed with Iran. Just recently, they both shook hands. I think India and Russia shook hands on protecting Iran's nuclear investigations or nuclear research.
Right.
So there is something a lot deeper than any of this homosexuality going on.
I would agree, because this makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, I keep trying to get my head around what's the motivation for a government or a political party or somebody in power to say, okay, we need to make homosexuality illegal, and we need to make it illegal because of X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case may be, because I don't understand the thinking. Why, number one, why is this even on your radar, right? Why do you give a shit, right? And number two, why would you make something like this, which is a natural form of human behavior that has been around since the beginning of the human race and will continue to be around until the end of the human race? Why would you pick on something which makes no sense whatsoever? I honestly cannot get my head around why.
And unless your ally in crime, like Russia, Putin says to you, okay, I'll do this for you. I'll scratch your back. I'll give you whatever you want as long as you bring in this law, because I don't like it.
Unless it has to do with some personal belief, some kind of maniac lunacy belief. It's disgusting, it's immoral, it's anti what God and Jesus, and if it's some crazy fucking mental case view that you personally believe that you're now going to enforce on everyone else, then it makes some kind of ludicrous sense. But
and there's something else.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Venerina. Finish your thought.
Well, I was going to say, and there's something else. At the moment, India's economy is growing. Okay, it has the potential to be one of the top economies in the world. So the sinister part of me keeps thinking, well, will this affect economy in a way? Because if people are busy fighting for rights, fighting for something that, that is imposed on them, how busy will they be in sending the country forward in progression economically? There are so many repercussions that can come from this, not just the death of a load of people, but also the economical repercussions.
Yeah, because it adds to the economy, right? Or it takes away from the economy to take away their rights, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still, this just baffles the shit out of me. I cannot get my head around. Ben, you were gonna chime in here on this. What are your thoughts?
I was just going to say that the mechanism that seems to be used is that in Russia they're using the Christian community quite a lot, because the Christians, the Russian Orthodox Church, well, it took a back seat during the Soviet era. It wasn't completely abolished, but it took a back seat, and now it's sort of like coming forward. But I mean, Venerina, I want to thank and congratulate her for this brilliant piece of research, because there's obviously something very, very sinister going on. She's managed to uncover the odd connections between these various countries, and it does seem, as far as I'm concerned personally, it just seems like yourself, Gareth, I find this an extremely odd obsession that any institution or even individual would have.
Yeah, I agree.
That you would be concerned about what other people, consenting adults, are doing in the privacy of their own bedrooms.
Exactly.
To me,
it's
a bizarre fixation, and I do question the sort of mentality of the people who actually have these ideas. I mean, there's some interesting research actually that's been done on people who do have this obsession. They've actually what they did was some of these people agreed to take psychological tests, and what they were done is they were shown homoerotic imagery, and apparently they became very sexually aroused at the sight of this homoerotic imagery. Whereas they took a control group of people who, like me and you, who couldn't give a damn, and we didn't respond sexually to that imagery in the same way. It makes me think that maybe some of these people have this sort of it's a part of themselves that they want to suppress. But deep down, they want to do that as well. There's a part of them that thinks, "Oh, I can't," So it's a bit of suppression
that
here.
makes
on the
sense.
part. I'm getting all Freudian now.
Because you hear so many times of like these rabid Christian preachers who are rabidly anti-gay and talking, it's immoral, it's this and that, and then 2 seconds later they're found banging some dude in some hotel room.
I know. Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I've got another perspective for you. How about India shakes hands with Russia, and Russia says, "Okay, you've got $70 billion outstanding debt. How about we pay some of it?" Okay, but you make your country ban homosexuality, and then Russia and me, being Putin, will not seem like such a bad guy. It's like earlier this year when I said, "You wait, they're trying to raise Putin's image to give him a Nobel Prize."
Yeah.
If you have an allied country that declares homosexuality forbidden, all of a sudden you're not the bad guy anymore. You're not taking the whole rap.
Yeah,
because you've got a whole other country backing you and doing the same
thing.
reason. So could it just be a handshake for getting rid of some of their debt?
Could be. I don't see it. You're right, Venerable. It very well could be, but I just cannot get my head around this at all.
Is it a human rights issue as well?
It is human. It is a human right issue. I mean,
I think that we look at race differently than we do when it comes to homosexuality. Like as far as the issues go,
it just doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. And even forget governments, forget countries. I mean, what Ben just said, when you meet someone in real life, just some person who's rabidly against this kind of thing, it really makes me wonder, like, what the hell is going on in your head? Why do you care? Why do you give a shit? Why is this even on your radar? Why do you even care?
But apart from that, I have this problem to accept that governments can decide how people should behave.
Right, exactly.
I mean, apart from the fact that you say that it should be, it shouldn't be on their agenda, what gives any law enforcing agency the right to tell somebody who they should love or who they shouldn't love or who they should have sex with or who they shouldn't have sex with?
I agree completely.
Hey, we reap what we sow, and we continue to perpetuate a system of opinions. That's all government is. It's just government laws are nothing more than opinions backed up with guns.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, that's where I'm on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's like, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? Get the fuck out of here. It's nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, how would they like it? You know, if we, which is what we should be doing. Actually, is allegedly they are servants of the people. Allegedly, the reversal should be happening, but it ain't.
Is it also the problem with government? Someone 3,000 miles away makes a law for me. It doesn't work. Doesn't apply to where I'm geographically located. And again, it's just their opinion. It's my. I could make up a whole bunch of opinions.
Right, of course. How about I make up some law? Let me make up some laws right now. Just pull them out of the air. There you go. This from now on, everyone's going to do this. There you go. Why if I don't follow Gareth's law, you show up my door with a shotgun. But why is their view more valued than mine? Why can't I just make up laws? They can. Why can't I? What's going on here?
Systems of control.
It's bizarre, but I mean this whole gay thing is very, very strange to me, and Venerina, I don't know. You might be 100% on the money on this. I do not know. But the feeling that I have, this is not backed up with any evidence or proof or anything like that. Not even backed up with a speculation. But the feeling I have is that this ties into, in some way, it ties into a path that the world is on. And it's a path that ties into what we talked about at the beginning of the show when we talked about North Korea. It's legitimizing ways of thought which are completely illogical and irrational. But we're on a path towards a totalitarian system. And some countries are further along that path than others. But we're all on that path. This is not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen in the next 10 years. But it's going to happen. In the words of David Icke, the totalitarian tiptoe. We're slowly tiptoeing, very slowly, towards the end goal of a massive, oppressive, totalitarian state that encompasses the world.
Now, can I add to that, or is that...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. See, I do see it within 10 years. I see it as, every country owes another country. Like, I'm sure Russia owes money to someone. It's like Spain owes money to Germany. Germany owes to France. France owes, it's just, I see countries around the world and governments going, fuck you, we're coming to claim our money now. And you don't have it, well, we'll come in and take what you got then. And then it's just, I do see this as happening within 10 years. And it could be. I wouldn't dismiss an overnight. I wake up tomorrow and United States has declared martial law.
Yeah,
we're no longer letting anyone in or out of our borders.
I wouldn't dismiss that either, Trevor.
I think it is a big far stretch.
But
but I wouldn't. There'd be people going, "Oh my God!" But I'd be like, "Hey, I told you so."
Well, from what you're describing is very, very possible, but right now extremely unlikely. It's unlikely that would happen, but it is absolutely possible, no question. Now, Joe wanted to add something here. Let me bring Joe in real quick. Go ahead, Joe.
Just real quick about Venerina's point. I'm glad she brought that up about the connecting of the countries and the different influence and the laws and things like that, because I think it's a lot about Western influence. Because I'm reading right here about this here. If you just don't mind, I'll read this real quick. Scholars say as gay marriage gains popularity in countries like the U.S., France, and India's former colonizer, the United Kingdom, there's a growing association in India with gay rights and foreign influence. Gay pride parades, the rainbow flag, all those things are influenced and borrowed from gay rights movements outside of India. So that to me kind of puts together, well, is this something about Western influence?
That's a good point, Joe. Very good point.
And Russia's doing the same thing.
Yeah, very good point.
But that's something that I was just going to, if I might just add something onto that. The way I see it as well, apart from the economy thing, I think there's very much a standoff of East against West. You know, the countries like Russia, China, India, and Iran, who have all clubbed together all of a sudden in this Shanghai cooperation against the Western world, which would be the NATO or the UN and forces like that. I see two big powers struggling against each other.
Yep. Russia's on the way back. You know, they've been asleep at the wheel for the last 20 years. They've been kicking back, hanging out, sorting out their own internal nonsense, but they've kind of got that under control now. So we can see them rapidly coming back onto the main stage and getting back into their old place as being another superpower. We keep forgetting that they have a ton of nuclear missiles, and we're thinking, well, there's only one superpower in the world right now, and that's the United States. No, Russia is still a superpower. They could still kick the living shit out of 90% of the countries on the planet in a fucking heartbeat. Let's not play games here. We know that. They're going to come back onto the world stage, and we're moving toward. I mean, this is great. It's in front of us. It's in front of us, guys. A one world government is on the way. The one world government is going to be a massive totalitarian regime. There's going to be one world army. They need to get the United States out of the fucking way, right? You can't have superpowers in a one world government. This is where we're heading. This is dark. It's disturbing. It's messed up. And trust me, I'm not happy about this shit. But the signposts are all around us. Ben?
That's such a great point.
You want to jump in there, Ben?
I was just going to say that I've noticed the powers that be, whatever you want to call them in this world, seem to chop and change when it comes to which country they select as superpowers. I mean, it was the British Empire in the 19th century. It was the United States in the 20th century. And now in the 21st century, it seems they've picked a new champion, which is maybe China, India, Russia, probably China. But either way, I mean, it's the same people pulling the strings, as you said.
Exactly.
And I think this is the danger facing us. You've alerted us to the danger facing us, Gareth. But I mean, I do feel optimistic we can break out of this. I think that enough people now are becoming aware that we can put a stop to it.
Well, let's hope you're right.
Hope so. Anyway, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Ben. I really do. All right, guys, we've come to the end of our time together on another spectacular show of the Mindset Podcast. I want to thank everyone for coming on board today and having a great conversation about this week's news, which as usual, unfortunately, has been pretty dark and disturbing, as we're continually bombarded by this nonsense. Next week will be our final show for 2013 as we take a couple weeks off, and we'll be back in January of 2014. So stay tuned for next Sunday's Mindset Podcast, the final for 2013. But let's go around, everyone, and thank you all individually and see where you can be found. Let's start with Trevor. Trevor, where can you be discovered on the internet?
Trevor?
Hello, Trevor?
The internet has swallowed them up.
Trevor?
Sorry, my mute was on. My mute was on. I've been talking for like 10 minutes. Oh, so yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Trevor Murray. Also, I have a Bigfoot Mountain survival gear Facebook page and eBay. So that's where you can find me.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Trevor. Joe, where can we discover you?
Well, the sun has just come back out, so I'm going to go out and hit the trails, look for some things, and you can find those adventures on youtube.com/FL Trailblazer, and of course at mindsetcentral.com.
Excellent. Let's see, Ben, where can you be found?
Hapanwo, HPANWO, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order.blogspot.com.
Excellent. Also check out Ben's videos on YouTube. I think he has links from the page you just described.
I do, yeah. Ben the Jail Porter.
There you go. And finally, a great welcome back, a great first show to be back with us, Venerina. Tell us where you can be found on the internet.
Thank you very much, Gareth. And I can be found on Facebook, facebook.com/Venerina. Or on Mindset Central, of course.
There you go. Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Another great show we have in the can here. We'll be back next week with more topics, more conversation, and more discussion. But until then, farewell, good brothers.